Hello, everyone. This is Liz. Welcome to Tuesday and broadcasting live from my house. And I am here to give Netflix recommendations. And I'm double checking something on my phone because I completely blanked on the name of someone in a movie. But we will go forward. The first movie I'm going to recommend is something that is new on Netflix right now and will probably appeal to people of all ages, and that is there's a new version of the Babysitters Club. I'm old enough to have seen the Babysitters Club movie in theaters. Now there's a new one. I grew up with the OG books and the Babysitters Club Little Sister book, which honestly, I don't know why I did. Karen was kind of annoying, but Babysitters Club has been a part of young kids slash kind of young adult literature for at least over a generation, and the new version is actually being pretty well received. I watched like an episode a little bit, and I'm like, this is fun. It's just kind of it's one of those just like it's not my thing anymore, but again, if you want something that you can watch with your kids, or if you just want a little nostalgia boost or see how it's been updated, because I mean there's things about Babysitter's Club that were in the original books that have probably, just times have changed. The biggest thing I can think of is diabetes. I remember that being such a big deal in the books, whereas now I'm like, it's a far more commonly known and understood thing. So again, this is a good example of how yes, you can update stories. Up next, this was a made for Netflix film and is called A Futile and Stupid Jester, and this is about Doug Kenny, who wrote for the National Lampoon. So if you're not familiar with who he is, you are more than likely familiar with his work. He was a writer. He did involved with movies like Caddyshack. He was involved in Animal House, and he helped co-found the National Lampoon in early 1970s. And Will Forte actually plays him, and he's really good in it. I think Will Forte is an actor that I'd actually like to see him get more dramatic roles based on this, but it is. I would recommend it not only because I think it's a pretty good movie and a pretty good depiction of, like, I guess I would say 70s comedy, but it's just a little mind blowing to realize like how much Doug Kenny contributed to humor. And a lot of people don't really know who he is. Whereas if you were to say John Belushi, Chevy Chase, people who acted in these movies or acted in movies he wrote, everyone knows who he is. So I think it's a good sort of a comedy lesson thing. And if you need to put a face to the name, if you saw Animal House, he's the guy who plays Stork, the kind of the strange looking guy with the glasses. He unfortunately died fairly young. I think it was either while the Caddyshack was in post production or very soon after it came out. But it's never known if it was suicide or an accident. But it's, you'll watch this and you might want to go revisit some of the movies he took part in, and you can't help but mourn not only for his life but for just a real loss of creativity. But I would say check it out. It's a good movie. Next, we're going to a documentary. If you've watched this, you know that my love of drag queens is well documented. So this is Trixie Mattel, Moving Parts. So Trixie Mattel already had a following, but kind of skyrocketed to fame after being on season 7 of RuPaul's Drag Race, which is what happens to a lot of these queens. They've already been working. They already have like a group of people who love them and follow their work, and then they get on TV, and then of course more people see them, which is a good thing for exposure. But I always am interested in sort of the person behind the entertainer, and I think this is a good documentary. It was shot over a few years, but it's about just his process with drag and also why he does it. I think there's been a lot of, especially with the drag queen story times, a lot of almost demonization of drag queens and who they are and what they do and what their performance is. Drag is a very, very large umbrella. And at the end of the day, it is performance. It's not anything nefarious, but hearing like you hear about this guy's life growing up, like he had an abusive stepfather who would call him Trixie whenever he would act too girly, and he decided to reclaim that name as his drag name. So If you're interested in, if you are a fan of Trixie Mattel or you're just interested in drag in general, I think Trixie Mattel Moving Parts is a very good documentary. And again, I think sort of these, at the end of the day, all artists are people, and I think that's a good thing to view. Up next, one of my favorite movies ever, a movie that I think absolutely got me into horror. Well, I don't know if I should say that because growing up, there was a lot of kid acceptable horror, like Are You Afraid of the Dark, Goosebumps, even The Simpsons Halloween specials, Twilight Zone. But when I saw Poltergeist at like 10 and 11, I think that really absolutely solidified I like the genre and I want to see more of it. So you probably know Poltergeist is. They're here. Also, do not see the remake. It's not great. This film still holds up incredibly well. I think the effects are great. There are still some really good scares in there. I like that the family in this movie seems like a real, actual family rather than just uh, characters with certain traits that everyone's supposed, character trait 1, 2, and 3. I love Jo Beth Williams and Craig T. Nelson. They're believable as parents, and the kids are believable kids. And of course, the just legendary Zelda Rubinstein just comes in and owns the movie. I think it's great. If you've never seen it, you should. I am also just going to say, I said this when I recommended the DVD at the library. Tobe Hooper did direct Poltergeist. Stop with the Steven Spielberg directed nonsense. As someone who is a big fan of Tobe Hooper's work, you watch this movie, there's a whole lot of Tobe in there. So, respect Tobe Hooper, people. On to something that's still scary but a little more kid-friendly, supposedly, is the 1990 version of The Witches. If you are not familiar with The Witches, it is a Roald Dahl novel about kids who find out, like this group of women is witches that like come after kids. It is wonderful. It is a great dark kids movie. I don't think there's a lot of dark kids movies anymore, but people my age, we had a ton of them. And Angelica Houston is terrifying in this movie, and the face work, the makeup work, when you see the witches in their real form, is so good. There is a reason this is a movie that people who saw it as kids still talk about, and great news, it holds up as a movie. Probably because it has, real people acting in it, real people directing in it, and I mean, there was an age, especially in the late 80s to the early 90s, where people did make kids' films for parents, not in the, I would say, the way that like Shrek would by inserting like dumb jokes, but they would direct it as in, oh, we actually need to make sure this is a well-constructed movie. So if you've never seen The Witches or you want to revisit it, oh my God, watch The Witches. Up next, a movie that I love that I still don't think has the attention it deserves, and that is the Wachowski sisters' Cloud Atlas. This is an adaptation of David Mitchell's book, long considered unadaptable, but they did it. I don't even think I saw it until one of my friends said, like, you have to see this. It's good. And it takes, I would say, 30 minutes to get into because it is not a linear narrative. You kind of jump around between 6 different stories. But by the end of the movie, my heart felt full. I was in tears. It is a beautiful film with themes of love and how we are all connected and the search for justice and the search for freedom. It is a beautiful movie. And it just shows, I mean, a lot of people say that the Wachowskis peaked at The Matrix, and I'm like, that is not true. I actually think this is their best, most fully realized film. So, on to 2 different movies that I'm recommending because of the music. So, yesterday we lost master composer Ennio Morricone. So, I'm recommending The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. That was a film he scored. It was a spaghetti western. And it was the score that really put him on the map. And I'm also recommending Inglourious Basterds. So, Inglourious Basterds features some of his older music and features it very well. I would recommend The Hateful Eight, but that I think has a lot more polarizing reactions, whereas Inglourious Basterds is almost universally enjoyed as a film. But, to tribute to the late Morricone, watch these movies. Up next, we're going to go into romantic comedy territory. I know, kind of weird for me, but there is a charming little movie called Always Be My Maybe, and that stars Ali Wong. She has the Santa special Baby Cobra. We also have her book Dear Girls at the Library, and Randall Park, who's probably best known for the very fun series on ABC, Fresh Off the Boat. They play childhood sweethearts who lose contact over the years, then meet again as adults, and there is kind of a will they or won't they, romance. I think it's very sweet. It's a lot of fun. Wong and Park are two incredibly just personable actors, so it's not a deep movie. It's not an Oscar winner, but it is a fun way to spend an hour and 40 minutes. And oh, hey, Keanu Reeves makes an appearance. Up next, kind of going back to my The Witches, and we had children's movies back in the early 90s that were, I think, had a lot more respect for the audience. We're talking about Batman Mask of the Phantasm, or as my boyfriend calls it, the best Batman movie. We disagree on that. I think Batman 89 is the best, but we got to keep peace in the house somehow. But this is probably the most underrated Batman movie. This is an animated film. It kind of came with the success of Batman the Animated Series, which still holds up. So this is basically the closest we were ever going to get to Bruce Wayne really grappling with his life and grappling with his choices. It's animated, it's short, but it is I think it packs just as much of a good narrative structure and good storytelling as either the Burton Batmans or the Nolan Batmans. We don't talk about the Schumacher Batmans. I think it really didn't do well at the box office when it came out. It was only in the theater for about 2 weeks, but upon rewatching it, there is a reason this is still lauded as one of the best Batman movies. Also, you have Mark Hamill as the Joker, and Kevin Conroy is a fantastic Batman / Bruce Wayne. Also, fun note, my boyfriend and I did go see a midnight showing of this. It was literally the last Coolidge midnight we saw before everything got shut down. I miss Coolidge. So, last two movies. We're going back to documentary. If you are a Star Trek fan, you are going to love this one. This is For the Love of Spock. This is just a lot of people remembering Leonard Nimoy and how important, not only how important Spock was and how important Star Trek was, but again, when we're talking about the person behind the performer, just how nice of a person Leonard Nimoy was. And hearing a lot of these people who worked with him, former coworkers, co-stars, his family, just talk about how much he meant to them. You'll see, you see why it's one of those things where it's like, it'll bring a tear to your eye, is what I'm trying to say. And, there's a reason that when he died, the whole nerd world, even ones who weren't huge Star Trek fans like me, kind of felt like we lost a great one. And the final movie that I'm recommending today is, I would say, another underrated film by an actress who I think is underestimated a lot, and that is Frida. So this was released in 2002 and directed by Julie Taymor, who's probably best known for directing the stage version of Lion King. And this stars Salma Hayek, and this was a passion project for Salma. She really wanted to bring this story to life and bring Frida Kahlo to life. And I think she does an amazing job here, capturing, I think, Frida's charm and also her anguish. And it's also a very colorful movie. It goes into very artsy, experimental territory, but that works because it's about Frida Kahlo. And I don't think it whitewashes her life in any way, shape, or form. Frida Kahlo had a hard life, but that's one of the reasons she's one of my favorite artists, or I would say probably my favorite artist. She was someone who painted her flaws and painted her pain at a time that was incredibly socially unacceptable for women to do so. My one complaint is I wish the movie was longer because Frida Kahlo is amazing and I can't get enough of her story, but I think Salma Hayek is great. She was nominated for Best Actress, but you'll watch this movie and you'll kind of be like, why don't people give her like real roles? She's usually just relegated to, busty comic relief, which she plays very well, but there's a whole lot more there. But again, Frida Kahlo's birthday was yesterday, so I can't think of a better way to celebrate than by watching this film. And Hopefully, once you watch that, you might go look at some more of Frida Kahlo's art or read some books about her. So that is all for today, and I will see you tomorrow back at the library. Have a great day.